पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। मात्रे श्री गीतायै नमः। महर्षिभ्यो व्यासेभ्यः नमः। श्री कृष्ण परमात्मने नमः। In this beautiful portion which is relevant to every sadhaka and his or her journey, there is an extra emphasis on the basic preparedness, which is control over one's sense appetites. In 66 and 67, we saw in the last class, unless there is integration between what we regard as right and how we behave in daily life, there is going to be no true appreciation or sustained appreciation of the great wisdom of the pure self. Ayuktasya buddhihi nasti. Shankaracharya takes it straight to Atmanatma Vivekaha. And unless we are integrated, that means we live a life of no contradictions, there will not be ability to stay in that wisdom, even if we somehow have it. Even if we have a high degree of clarity on what the Vedanta says, we will not be able to stay put in that outlook. The moment the satsang is over, the moment we put aside a spiritual book, our mind will run towards dualistic pleasures. This Vedanta urges us to stay as awareness which has no duality. I am the object, I am the subject too. But the world pulls us back and ties us down to duality. I am an enjoyer, and if I get that object, how nice it is going to be. In this way, there are two realities which the world professes. World is a powerful lawyer, a powerful attorney, powerful prosecutor, powerful legal expert who says this duality is the truth. The scriptures, the Upanishads are far more powerful, but we may not be listening to the Upanishads at this moment. The Upanishads draw a case for the duality to be merely created by thought. The pure Sat Chit is the truth. But this tussle, this tug of war between the spiritual teachings of the Upanishads and the worldly propaganda goes on. It has been going on for ages. In every generation, a handful of people are able to listen to the lawyer on the side of the Upanishads. Earlier I called Upanishads themselves are the lawyer. Either way, very few actually go beyond this sansara. Yenaiva yataha yatayosya param tameva margam tava nirdishami, says the Guru in Viveka Chudamani to a student who has come with tremendous intensity to know the truth. Do not be afraid. Ma bhaishta vidvan tava nasti apayaha. There is a shloka, very reassuring. O learned student of mine, do not be afraid. Ma bhaishta tava apayaha nasti. There's no danger for you. You have got the right direction now. Stay put on the right path, and I will show you that very path by which many went to their supreme enlightenment. If we do not take care to avoid contradictions in life, then there is no meditation and there is no shanti. Leave alone the world. We ourselves will be looking down at ourselves. The world, for right or wrong reasons, may respect us, may regard us as highly spiritual, may even seek advice from us, all of which may boost our ego. But inside us, when we are ayukta, we have no shanti, and ashantasya kutas sukham, no happiness. And the 67 said, ayuktasya kasmat buddhihi nasti. How is it that someone who does not unite her daily life with the wisdom that she has gained in the satsangs? I am sticking to the technical meaning of ayukta. Yuj means to unite, to join. The wisdom that we receive in the satsangs is A, and our relationship with sense objects is B, and if A and B are not united, we are ayukta. The wisdom of the satsangs says, eat moderately, and we overeat. The wisdom of the satsang says, avoid over talking, and we overdo. We tell somebody not only the necessary information, but a whole lot of unnecessary information also. Then we are ayukta, because the way we behave with the tongue to eat or the tongue to speak and other sense organs of action, is at variance with the wisdom we have gained from the satsangs. Then ayukta. Yukta united, ayukta disunited. Disunited from the wisdom of the Shastras. What happens? Why does he or she not have the Atmanatma Viveka? The discrimination between what I am not and what I am makes an exit from the nearest door of the hall. How? That is where Acharya Shankara says, the next shloka explains, Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu vidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi. Indriyas, there are many of them, 10 of them, 5 Jnanendriya and 5 Karmendriya. Charatam, they are all the time moving, looking out for their gratification. They feel mighty happy if their objects are brought to them. As in the Upanishads, a metaphor is given sometimes. The Indriyas are like flames of fire, and objects are like oblations, ghee poured into fire. In the context of a yajna, yaga, homa, havana, as ghee is poured, the flames rise higher and higher. So, charatam, indriyanam hi charatam, yan manaha. For 4 decades, I have taken yat as an adjective to manaha, because manaha also is neuter and indriya also is neuter. So, yan manaha anuvidhiyate, the mind which follows these sense organs, and even now I think that is a valid meaning. But just 2 weeks ago, I came across a Kannada translation by some ashram, and there they have taken the word yat, which is a relative pronoun, as qualifying one of the sense organs. Like in Hindi, you have the word jo. Indriyo me jo, or jo man. So jo can be adjective to man. जो मन इंद्रियों के पीछे जाता है, और इंद्रियों के बीच जिसके पीछे मन जाता है. So yat can be, according to that other translation which I came across, a qualifier for one of the sense organs or organs of action. So if you take that meaning, suppose our mind goes after even one of those 10 organs, enough. That is enough for causing such disturbance in our life. What happens? That behavior of the mind to go after, to follow one of the sense organs, one of the organs of action, leads to harati prajnam. That behavior takes away. You have studied, you have listened to, you have even done contemplation, you have attended 10-day spiritual retreats, you have gone to Himalayas and spent a whole month being with sadhus and sants and attending satsangs, maybe. But all that prajna, that understanding, goes. This behavior, harati, takes away. And just as unfavorable winds take away a boat in an undesirable direction, you need to go to north, and these winds forcibly take you in the direction of the south. That is a powerful metaphor. In the Bhagavad Geetā, there are more than 50 illustrations or metaphors. It would be a good idea to collect these metaphors and contemplate upon them. There can be a similar little project on the Upanishads too. The Upanishads have a number of illustrations. Yesterday, a lady from Chennai asked me which shloka in Bhagavad Gita talks about the senses being like horses. Oh, to complete that reference, a lady who is herself quite knowledgeable about Bhagavad Gita asked me which shloka in Bhagavad Gita compares the indriyas with horses and the mind with the reins or the bridles with which the horses are controlled. And for a moment I thought, yeah, I think the famous chariot illustration in Kathopanishad is reflected somewhere in the Gita. Then within a couple of minutes I realized, interestingly, though it is such a well-known metaphor from the Kathopanishad, Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi, Shariram Rathamevatu, and so on, I realized that in Bhagavad Gita, the chariot being the physical body, the senses being like the horses, the mind being like the reins, and the intellect being like the charioteer. Buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. Uh, that illustration is not found in the Bhagavad Gita. That lady's son was practicing horse riding, and she wanted to tell her son, young boy, that look, you are riding horses, learning to ride horses. And you know what? In Gita or in the Upanishad, we have this. Indriyas are the horses, and the mind is the reins, and the one who holds the reins is the buddhi. Then I applied to her the exact mantras of Kathopanishad and then submitted to her. Look, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a reference to the horse. In the chapter 6, verse number 3, talks about, without mentioning the word horse, it says, someone who has mounted, implying a horse of highest spiritual, very high spiritual consciousness, equated sometimes to a high state of vairagya, can afford to renounce actions. But someone who is yet to mount the horse of vairagya or a heightened spiritual consciousness had better stay in selfless service. Who should be in karma yoga? Who can go to sannyasa is spelt out in the Bhagavad Gita. Arurukshor yogam karma karanamuchyate yogarudhasya tasyaiva shamakkaranamuchyate is the beautiful shloka I am referring to. For Sanskritists, those words also are very good. Arurukshu, desiderative, one who wants to mount the horse of higher spiritual consciousness. And Arudaha, one who already has mounted, in parenthesis, the horse of heightened consciousness. So coming back, let's not go away too far. The illustration of the boat is given here, and this boat is taken away by unfavorable winds. Now, if we pay heed to these warnings given by the Gita, we will take extra care. Where there is will, there is a way does apply on lower planes of day-to-day living. On very high plane of spiritual contemplation, on the plane of sannyasa, on the plane of, you see, in Bhakti Marga, complete surrender to God, our willpower, our deciding and then saying, I will do this at any cost and so on, has no meaning. But unless we have arrived at that Sharanagati, that Prapatti, unless we have arrived at that heightened understanding of the dynamics of this entire life, to say, I don't believe in willpower, I believe in going with the flow, let anything happen, etc., is rather ill-conceived. So we say the seekers, the sadhakas, students on the path have to decide, do I really want to be carried away by the sense organs? Do I really want all my sadhana to be jeopardized by this vicious activity of spirituality? Is the question. video stilled and audio very clear. If there is a problem with the chat box, then send a message that I will be able to read, and then I will know whether you are all hearing or not. So there are multiple options in today's technology. Chat box has text, and here I have my WhatsApp on the smartphone, which is also supplying the internet. Multiple functions, parallel processing is going on. Okay, so now we enter the 68th verse, where Sri Krishna says, therefore, like in mathematical derivations, we have several lines where several steps of a certain proof maybe have been done. But then at the end, in the light of all that we have discovered, we say, therefore, all of us remember a little maths at least, a single dot above and two dots below is therefore. And in Bhagavad Gita, that would be another mini project, I tell you, for some of you who may want to take up a little project on Gita. Collect all those verses which have the single word tasmat. Tasmat means therefore. What therefore? Because the senses can completely make our spiritual life topsy-turvy down, we must control organs and organs of action with maturity. In no way we mean any suppression. So, tasmad yasya mahabahu nigrahitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyartha tasya jna pratishtita. Tasmad. Many places, starting from second and probably to all the way till the 18th, we have tasmat, therefore. All right. I think we did not touch the Bhashya on 67. So let's take a look at it. Very quickly, we have explained on our own. Indriyanam hi yasmat. Wherever the word he appears, it means yasmat. Yasmat means because of reasons given before, that unless we have an integration of personality, we would not be able to hold spiritual thoughts in us. They just slip through our fingers. That's yasmat. Therefore, yasmat is because, and it followed by tasmat. Therefore, charatam swasva vishayeshu pravartamananam yat manaha. So, yat here can go with manaha, but here also in the Bhashya also, someone may say this yat refers to whichever of the 10 organs of action and perception. But it's very close, it's just behind the word manaha. So I would go for the interpretation with which I have been for 40 years. That is, that mind, yat going with manaha, that mind which follows the sense organs, anuvidiyate anupravartate, tat indriya vishaya vikalpanena pravrittam manaha. It is controlled by indriyas. Like you have sometimes in an office or in an organization a boss, but after close examination you find that that boss or that CEO, that prime minister, that president, whoever, actually he completely listens to a coterie, a little bunch of people who dictate terms to him, who say do this, and he just does that, or she just does that. Like that, Indriya Vishaya Vikalpanena Pravrittam. So that mind, I said in my independent words, I said such behavior of the mind jeopardizes our wisdom. Shankara says such a mind jeopardizes your wisdom. Tadrisham manaha asya yatehe harati pradnam atmanatma vivekajam. The Bhashya on the previous mantra, previous shloka. Nashayati, it destroys. The shloka says harati, and Shankaracharya uses a stronger word, nashayati. Your understanding is just destroyed. You behave like any common man in the world, any worldly person panting after sense pleasures, always chasing money, 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 always going after enjoyments, status, prestige. You find in lot of spiritual organizations, if you go closer, unfortunately, you find quite a few of the key members there are actually highly status conscious. Highly, they go for some reflected glory. If they hold a position in a certain spiritual organization, it's a matter of pride and prestige for them. Then what spirituality is that? Now, Sri Shankara writes, Udake jigamishatam margat udhritya unmarge yatha vayuhu navam pravartayati. One more desiderative, sannanta we call it. Jigamishatam means gantum ichchatam. Those who wish to go in a certain direction, in my example I said north, those who wanted to go in the northern direction, wanting to go is jigamishatam, sixth case plural. Gantum ichchatam. Udake is nadyam, in the river. Udhratya. Suppose there are unfavorable winds which are very powerful, they as though pull this boat and unmarga in an undesired direction. Unmarga is a bad direction. In a family, if a young daughter or a son gets into bad company and starts doing bad things, then the parents cry. We were shocked yesterday when we found in our daughter's room little substance, some drug. She is in unmarga. She is on the on the bad path, on the bad road. A father the other day somewhere caught his daughter red-handed, 10th grade girl. Red-handed meaning she had some substance, right in her hands. He said, show me what you have in your hand. And that girl, keeping both her hands behind her back, said, Appa, nothing, nothing, I don't have anything in hand. He said, whatever it is, show me what you have in your hands. She just said, my life is my life, and she just went into her room. She did not cooperate, and he was so grief-stricken. Oh, my girl is just 15-year-old. Looks like she has got into some drug abuse. So he was so concerned. That is unmarga. And you and I, in spite of our scriptural learning, could go into unmarga. Unmarge yatha vayuhu navam pravartayati. Evam atmavishayam prajnam hritva. The same boy, the same girl probably had impressed friends, relatives, and everybody in a function with a short discourse on Gita, where everybody said, wow, at the age of 14, this girl knows so much about Vedanta. They envied her. But now, a few months later, she has been found to be into substance abuse or whatever you call it. So in the example, so Atma Vishaya Prajna, is she the same girl who spoke such beautiful things on Gita at that function, at some get together? Yeah, it's the same girl, but now gone. All that Gita wisdom has disappeared. She is into drugs and drinks and what she does, we don't know. That kind of. So, this is the autobiography or the biography of many a spiritual seeker. Hardly anyone is spared from this. Thank you for pointing out. We had not covered the Bhashya on Shloka 67. Now, we also had not covered how Shankaracharya connects us to the next shloka. Yatato hyapi, from 60th verse, even a learned person and striving also, suppose he is careless, then he slips and falls. It was said in the 60th verse, Upanyastasya arthasya, whatever was upanyasta, whatever was presented, that message, anekada upapattim uktva, in several ways it was established, upapatti, in the fivefold syllogism. It's called a five-member syllogism in Tarka Shastra, in Nyaya. You have pratijna, you declare, then you give a reason for what you declared, called hetu. Then you give an illustration, that's called udaharana. Then upanaya, you connect the matter to be established with the illustration, drishtanta you gave. And then you do nigamana. Nigamana is QED. Therefore, I say. And in Nyaya Shastra, the most popular example is you say, there seems to be fire on that hill. And your friend says, what makes you think so? There is fire on the hill, you know, is the pratijna, declaration. Hetu is, I see smoke there. Where there is smoke, there has to be fire. And udaharana is in the kitchen, whenever we find smoke, somebody is cooking something. So in the kitchen in our home, we see when there is fire, there will be smoke. Or when you see smoke, there has to be fire. That is udaharana. Then upanayana. Therefore, like the case in the kitchen, here on the hill, where we see smoke, there has to be fire. Then nigamana is, my dear friend, would you now agree that there is fire on the hill? The friend says yes, he agrees. Like that, the word used is slightly different here. Anekada upapattim. Upapatti is the various ways in which logically the matter is established. Tamcha artham upapadya. Having arrived at that message, now with all the illustrations completely clear of doubt. Upasamharati. So this 68 which we are seeing in today's class is upasamhara. Upasamhara literally means winding up, wrapping it up. Today in many projects, in many little pieces of work, we use that word. Before I leave the office this evening, I want to wrap up this little project. So tomorrow we will take up a new one, and so on. Even when the magazines, Powai Forum has a magazine, Inner Flame. So we have to wrap up this issue of Inner Flame. And then we start working on the next issue of the magazine. So Upasamhara is wrapping up a book or a speech or any work for that matter. Now Sri Krishna is doing Upasamhara. He is wrapping up this particular topic of how the person who, through diligent practice, through being careful day after day, in an integrated fashion, meaning the work begins the moment you get up till you hit the bed at night. For if you begin the day well, you are likely to carry that on well also. Begin the day, you know, take bath, do some yoga, and do your prayers, finish your puja if you are doing daily, well in time, and then get going with work. Don't say, I think I will do my yoga today in the evening when I come back from my office. And in the evening, you say, so tired I am, I'll do it in next morning. I'll do 15 minutes more tomorrow morning. That kind of, in so-called value-based management also they say about teamwork. A successful team scores early victories. I was not clear about it long back when I read something about teamwork because a football or a soccer team's example was given. A successful team scores early victories. Are scoring victories is not in our hands. How can this writer of this book on organizational behavior write this successful teams score early victories? Then I understood what is meant is that psychology has to be like that. They don't believe in one of these days we will do well. No, today is the day. Come on, let's start. Let's practice enough. And this is the first tournament we are playing. And in this tournament, let us give our best. So, if a team begins well in the very first tournament that they play, then suppose they're likely to get a good victory. Successful teams show early victories and so on. Some lakshanas were given in that OB book. So Sri Krishna writes here or speaks. Vedavyasa wrote later, Tasmad yasya mahabaho. We read this. Nigrihitani sarvashaha. O Mahabaho, this is Sambodhana, addressing Arjuna as, O mighty one. In a lot of other places where there is this O, people split the sandhi. Somebody split it here wrongly. Yatasmad yasya, it should be Mahabahaha. Maybe Mahabahaha has become Mahabaho. Rama Rama. Here it is not Mahabahaha. It is Mahabahu in Sambodhana while addressing. In Sanskrit, if you want to address a guru, you have to say, Hey Guru. Like that, Mahabahu. Hey Mahabaho. There is no Mahabaha here. Yasya Indriyani Indriyarthebhyaha Nigrahitani. Simple. Whoever is such that his 10 organs are well restrained from mindless indulgence in their respective objects. I am never tired of saying that spirituality never asks us not to enjoy life. Life may be enjoyed, sweets or music or wide range of wonderful things. You go on an outing with family or friends, you go to some beautiful place, you have music and dance and some good food and relaxation, and you come back refreshed, spirits revived. Spirituality does not say one should not enjoy life. But as Swami Chinmayanandaji used to repeatedly say, you may drink, but let not the bottle drink you, meaning don't get enslaved. So please be careful. Every one of us has to look within. Have I been enslaved by any pleasure that I have no control at all? When the thought of enjoying something rises, I simply am driven by that thought without some deliberation. Is it the right time? Should I do it now or maybe later? Should I have that drink later? Should I eat that sweet later or now? Some kind of deliberation. And we give some weight. As someone commented already, talk less, eat less, and sleep less to become mindful, not mindless. So if one reads that slowly, talk less, eat less, and sleep less, one might think, okay, do we become mindless because of that? No. Talking less, eating less, and sleeping less can make us mindful, more aware. So true. So Indriyani, Indriyartebhya Nigrihitani, held back. Tasya prajna pratishtitha. This is a summary shloka, upasamhara shloka. Therefore, Bhagavan Bhashyakara also is pretty brief on this. Indriyanam pravrittau doshaha upapaditaha. In the previous verses, it was seen. Upapaditaha, it was in fact brought home. It was proved. It was shown to us in no uncertain terms. What? Doshaha, the terrible problem, the terrible defect, dosha. Whenever you buy something or whenever you are about to drink something, you take a look at what it is. And then you say, no, there is a fly in this wonderful glass of hot milk with badam and whatnot. But there's a fly. A house fly has fallen into this drink. So you return it. You say, take that away. Right? Dosha. So in what you drink, what you do, what you buy, there could be some unacceptable defects. Like that, Indriyanam pravruttau, in the way our 10 organs go about their respective functions, there is a dosha. What is that? They may overstep. They may, like if it is the tongue, whether a sense organ tasting things or as an organ of action speaking, the tongue may go for more to consume than what is optimum. As karmendriya, the tongue may speak much more than what is desirable, or sometimes what is speak much less also out of fear, out of some suppression. That also is equally bad. Doshaha upapadita, it has been shown. Yasmat tasmat. Because it was shown so logically, therefore, yasya yatehe, the word yasya is from the shloka. Yatehe is by Sri Shankaracharya. Yasya yatehe. Yati here is Sanyamana Shilaha. You and I are trying to live every new day with more care than we showed yesterday. Things do go wrong in spite of our best intentions. For some distraction, some unusual temptation, something comes our way, and we say, "Yeah, I haven't eaten this delicacy probably for the last 5 years. Therefore, I'll go for it," and so on. Something makes us compromise with some of our previously taken decisions. So it is said, yati. Then we say, a single bite, and then I stop, and I'm going to be careful. So the very attempt, very effort, the very repeated endeavors on our part to live a proper life, not only in organs, even in the emotional. A short video is doing rounds. I also forwarded it to some people, where a young couple have a fierce fight morning 8:30. The girl, the wife, accuses the husband of ill treating her as though she is a servant at the home. She is not working, was a single income family. And the husband gets angry. What makes you think so? Did I ever call you a servant? And so on. And husband also goes to his work very agitated. The wife is so angry, young girl, 26 or something. She calls her parents and says, enough is enough. I'm coming home. I don't want to live with this man whom you made my husband, etc. That short video in Hindi was so good. But the parents of the girl, especially the father, says, I'm so sorry that you again had a fight, my dear daughter. But you see, be careful. Just go over everything. Uh, what did he do? Tell me. Oh, okay. Whatever it is, why don't you try some reconciliation? See whether if you are good to him next 3 days, he comes around and also becomes very good too. Such things. And then the same evening in that short video, it ends on a happy note. The girl was about to pack up everything, and before the husband came back, she would have gone to her parents' place in the beginning of the video. But then, towards the end, she listens to her father's words. And when the husband comes back, we find the young girl apologizing to her husband. Morning, I was in a bad mood. I accused you of calling me a servant, etc. Sorry about it. What will you have, tea or coffee? I'm making some tea for you, and so on. And the husband too says, no, no, my mistake it was. I went on defending, and as though I had never made a mistake. In fact, at times I was rather insensitive to her. I should have been more patient with you. I'm so sorry. So the 27-year-old husband, the 26-year-old wife, or whatever age is not important, they both are apologizing to each other, and then everything is straightened up. So, on our emotional level, also, you and I can try to make every day a better one. We must avoid the mistakes we had committed on earlier occasions. Then, nigrahitani. Though I must admit, the shloka talks about indriya nigraha, but I took the liberty to extend and said mano nigraha, bhavana nigraha, holding back negative energy, holding back negative emotions, and coming out with something harmonizing, something that brings back the balance in relationships. So, yatehe mahabaho, Shankara does not explain what is mahabahu. Mighty armed, bahu is arm. Nigrahitani sarvashaha sarvaprakaraihi manasadi bhedaihi indriyani. And even Bhashya talks about it. So even on the mental level. So sometimes, yes, a Tippanikar writes a very nice note. When the Acharya Shankara writes Manasadi Bedaihi, he's not talking about mind control really. He's talking of sense control only. Then why the word Manasa? Manasa means mind. The Tippanakara rightly writes the senses go berserk in two ways. One is the eyes, ears, nose, etc. perceive some objects outside. The eyes see some nice jalebis on a plate kept on a table. The ears hear some music. The nose smells some delicious food. It has a distinct smell. So this is external, literal. Sometimes there is no jalebi, no music, no fragrant or something smelling well. Nothing. We are in a little room, 10 feet by 12 feet, sitting alone. There is no sense object around us. But manasa, our mind suddenly remembers some delicious food that we had eaten long back, maybe several months ago. And that food, that little salty, little spicy food is ideal when it is raining. And at this time it is raining outside. As it is raining, how nice it would be to have that pakoda and so on. Who showed you pakoda? Nobody. But memory. Manasadi bhedaihi. So even as our mind conjures up the images of some pakode, some chakuli, something salty, savory, and we go berserk. We feel like just go and get it from some nearby place or do something like that. So, manasa, from our mind, from memories, something may arise, or outwardly there could be actually temptations. From all of them, indriya arthebhyaha, ete indriyarthaha bahihi santu manaseva santu. Let them be outside or let them inside. Shabdadibhyaha nigrahitani tasya prajna pratishtita. In this way, the summary shloka says we must restrain from any unwise indulgence. There is no objection to dharmika indulgence. On your son's birthday, you have a little heartier, slightly heavier meal. Maybe that night, if the heavy meal was lunch, night itself you eat less and balance it out. But at lunchtime, when others said, Papa, come on, have one more masala dosa. This is lovingly made for you, and so on. And you take three masala dosas and whatever. Shastra is not against it. Shastra says that evening just have two fruits and then balance it out. Okay, I don't have to give these simple examples now. I'm surprised how video did not work today after half the class, but luckily the audio was good, I believe. So we take up some questions. Oh, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.